Hey, welcome to the MVP Show. Today we're chatting with Paul O'Flaherty. He's a SharePoint expert and he can share his expertise through his free training videos on his YouTube channel, which we're going to discuss about, and he'll tell you how to find that. But of course, he's become a Power App guru, and hence why he's now an MVP. So we discuss his journey, how, what he went through, how he became an MVP, and what it's like being a freshly minted MVP. Full show notes for this show can be found at nz365guy.com/157. Now let's get on with the show. Hey Paul, welcome to the MVP Show.
Nice to be here, thank you.
Mate, it's good to have you on the show and good to be doing a podcast in New Zealand with somebody else that's in New Zealand, which is quite novel for me.
Great.
So tell me, you're a newly minted MVP. Is that right? How long have you been an MVP? That's
right. Just a few months now.
Okay. And you're in the business applications category, but kind of what's your secret sauce? What's the area that you kind of specialize in?
So it's Paraps, and specifically the Canvas Paraps. A little bit of flow going along with that, but the main focus, and I think the reason I was awarded the MVP is for the work that I've done in the Power App space particularly.
Okay. So before we jump there, why don't I just get a bit of your background? Where do you originate from? Are you a Kiwi? And what do you do with your family when you're kind of not working?
Okay, so I'm originally from the UK, as anyone good at accents will have figured out by now. I lived and worked in the UK up until 2009, and then work took me to the Middle East. So I spent nearly 10 years in the Middle East. I met the lady who is now my wife, and we had our 2 young children, so it was a fantastic time and an interesting experience. But after nearly 10 years, our work there for both of us was starting to come to an end, and we wanted, a different environment to bring the kids up in. And we sort of thought to ourselves, where shall we go? And we decided New Zealand would be an interesting place and a good place for a young family. So we came out sort of on spec, and I was lucky enough to find a job with Datacom relatively quickly, and here I am now. So we're planning on staying in New Zealand if New Zealand will have us. Still waiting for that visa the permanent visa to come through, but that's our plan, and all going well. Yeah. So
why did you choose New Zealand? Right, you could have gone to South Africa, you could have gone to Australia, other Commonwealth locations. I don't know. Is South Africa a Commonwealth location? Canada, I know, would be another choice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm terrible at languages, so it had to be somewhere that speaks at least predominantly English, and somewhere where you're likely to be able to find a bit of work and perhaps get a visa. So, I mean, really that sort of narrows it down to sort of Canada, Australia and New Zealand. So I discussed it with my wife. She said that Canada was far too cold. A friend of hers had recently moved out there, and she could see on Facebook, 6 foot of snow and stories of being trapped in for days. And my wife is originally from the Philippines, so cold is not something which is appealing to her. Australia just had too many poisonous bitey things. And so it was New Zealand. We actually went to Australia and had a look around, and came to New Zealand and had a look around. We just liked the feel and the pace of things in New Zealand. So this was our first choice, and we were lucky enough to get here.
So good. And so my next question is going to be, why Christchurch?
The main reason is that's because I was offered a job in Christchurch. That was the first job I was offered. So I came. I did also actually have a friend in Christchurch who I met in the Middle East. So that was good. So there was someone who could, sort of introduce us to the city. And having lived here a little while now, it really suits us. It's just the right sort of pace. It's just that sort of Goldilocks of, it's big enough that it's got what you need, but it's not so big that it's crazy busy and crazy impersonal. So it's just been a really good fit for us. Been really happy.
Has there been any earthquakes while you've been there?
Little ones, yes, yep. So we're getting used to that now. So when we were caught by the first one, we were all a bit, oh, what do we do now? But it was all over before we could get too worried about it. But it was I can't remember what it was now. Sort of a 5 or something on the scale. So it was just a bit like a train rumbling past, and you're thinking, what's a train doing nearby? Oh, hang on a minute, we're in Christchurch. It's an earthquake, and then it was all over. So it's all good so far.
Interesting. How did you get into Paraps?
So when I was out in the Middle East, I was working predominantly SQL Server with Access front ends. It was kind of a bit of shadow IT, and it was a way that you could get things onto the network without having to jump through too many hurdles with the IT department. But when I realised that the job there was sort of coming to an end and we were thinking about moving on, I was thinking, well, Access is not terribly cutting edge these days, so I probably want to have, a few more strings to my bow, as it were. So I did the MCSE exams for SQL Server and got that, which was great, as sort of one option. And then the other one was, I started looking at Paraps and thinking, well, this is sort of interesting. I could probably do some things here. At the time, my wife had a restaurant business in the Philippines, which was really difficult for us to run from the Middle East, because of the time differences, and just her staff there were not always terribly forthcoming about what was actually happening in the restaurant. So I thought, well, we can probably, knock something together. I studied the Paraps a little bit, and I built an app where you could use, just some cheap Android tablets, and you had the menu on there, and so the people in the restaurant, the servers could take the orders, and it would, calculate the right amount, because that was something they seemed to have trouble doing themselves. And, it meant that we had immediate visibility of what was going on. So we could see, is this a busy day? Is this not a busy day? Hang on, no one seems to have been in the restaurant for a few hours. Is something going on? Has somebody lost the keys again and it's not open, but no one has bothered to tell us? So it gave us, that opportunity to sort of monitor what was going on. And that was a really good sort of use case for me to sort of try and start getting my head around Paraps and how it all worked. And of course, Paraps hasn't been with us for very long, so it was very new when I was doing that, and I couldn't find much information online about how it was all supposed to work and how to overcome, some of the challenges and issues I was facing in putting these apps together. So I just started doing some YouTube video clips, when I found something new that I thought would be useful to other people, and that turned into a little YouTube channel, which has now got a respectable number of subscribers. And I haven't put anything in for a couple of months now, and I really need to. I've been very busy moving house and all sorts of things, but I do plan, particularly with a bit of free time coming up over the Christmas period. Hopefully I'll get a bunch new content on that YouTube channel soon.
Yeah, good. So I love just the practical nature of what you've created, as in how you cut your teeth, with that restaurant app. What else have you been building as you've kind of continued to learn the Power Platform?
Yeah, so it's great being at Datacom, because we're sort of a consultancy, so we've got different customers coming to us and asking for, all different kinds of apps. So, that's presented some interesting challenges. So we've had to do things like, build apps that work offline, which is no mean feat, but it can be done. We have it working, and I have the YouTube clip on that. Stuff with, with images and photos. So that seems to be quite a big thing that companies are interested in with the app. A picture's worth 1,000 words, as they say. So it's great if their mobile staff can get out there and get images of whatever the issue is, and get that quickly back to the staff back in headquarters. So we've got quite a few apps that do that sort of thing. And then I've been playing around with the cognitive services, hooking Power Apps up to cognitive services. So that was interesting. Haven't
Are you,
really
are you doing that via AI Builder, or are you going direct to cognitive services?
No, direct to cognitive services. So I started messing around with that towards the end of last year, I think. So that was before AI Builder sort of came on the scene. And that was mainly just, out of interest, playing around, see what could be done, and then sharing some of those results on YouTube. Haven't had much cause to use it yet in anger for clients. I mean, we've done a couple of things where there's, some translation going on, which sort of falls in that AI bucket, but it's not the whiz-bang exciting stuff that, that most people are looking at now. We started looking at, unfortunately, the project never really took off for other reasons, but we started looking at the possibility of using the computer vision to try to recognize and measure the size of injuries, wounds, bruises and things. So it was for a healthcare provider. So it was going to be sort of monitoring to see whether, people were healing or not, people who were only visited every couple of weeks or something, to see how much it had changed, whatever the injury was. So in a way, I'm sort of glad that one didn't come around, because I would have been sitting there trying to train the AI model on lots of images of gory injuries and weeping, pussing wounds and stuff. So yeah, careful what you wish for. So that one didn't come through, but yeah, we've got some expertise and knowledge in that area now, and every now and again, we hear of something, and hopefully one of those will actually pan out into a bigger project soon.
So tell me, what was your MVP journey? How did it come about? Were you surprised? Who nominated you? That type of thing.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised. So as well as the YouTube clips, I started doing some talks at conferences as well. So yeah, I think it was, when I went off to there was one in Washington, D.C. that we went to, which was the Power Platform World Tour, where I went along to sort of show off some of this Paraps with cognitive services stuff. And I was quite surprised, because I got there and a few people there said, "Oh, hang on, we recognize you, and thank you for your YouTube videos. We've been following those." So that's really weird, the first time that happened to you. And then a guy came up, Anton Robbins, who's an MVP in the US, who I not had any dealings with before, and he just said, "Oh yeah, I really enjoyed your videos, and by the way, is it okay if I nominate you for the MVP?" So I said, "Absolutely." So it was Anton. Thank you very much, Anton, who nominated me. And then it took a little while to come through, because I think my application went in just at about the time when they were looking at all of the renewals of the existing MVPs, and that sort of takes precedence. So I put the thing in, and I was then sort of, tapping my fingers, waiting, what's going on. But it eventually came through, and very happy.
Wow. Okay, so just out of interest, so had you heard about the MVP program before that?
I had, yes. I was sort of dimly aware of it. I knew that certain sort of experts, who weren't actually part of Microsoft, were. I didn't know how people got the MVP, but I knew that some people were MVPs, based on sort of experience and things that they had contributed to the whichever platform they were the MVP for.
Interesting. And so you got nominated. Then what happened? So you're saying it happened kind of like in the March, April timeframe, when all the renewals are done for all existing MVPs once a year. So there's a bit of a quiet patch. What was the engagement process once that nomination had gone in?
So you get an email to tell you that you've been nominated, and then there's a link in there which takes you through to a website where you can put down, what you've been doing. So they ask you to list any, conferences you've spoken at, or, what engagement you do, because I'm fairly active on the Paraps community forum as well.
Good. Okay, so that's good. So you do a lot of contribution in the Paraps community forum.
That's right. Yes. Yep. So I'd already been made a super user, or an astronaut, they call it. I'm not too sure about that name, but so I'd already been given the astronaut badge in the community forum. So so I was able to put those bits and pieces down. So that was all great, and then sent that off, and then, like I say, I didn't hear anything for a while, and then there were a couple of events here in Christchurch. So there was an event I took part in, a hackathon, which was for the people who were affected by the Christchurch shooting last March. But at that, Shiva Ford, who's the MVP coordinator for Australia and New Zealand, she was there at that. And my boss here at Datacom, Rich Burdess, who's a bit more extrovert than me, he knew that my MVP application was in, and I hadn't heard anything for a while, and he knew that Shiva was involved in that process. So he then sort of jumped in and started saying, "Okay, Shiva, so Paul here's been nominated, and he hasn't heard anything for a while. What's going on?" I don't know whether that made any difference to speeding things up, but it wasn't long after that I then got the email to say that you've been awarded, and then that's followed up a little bit later by a parcel that comes, which has a very nice certificate in it, and a little Perspex MVP award, which you can put on your desk, and a little disc with the year of your award. And then, as I understand it, if you're lucky enough to be renewed as an MVP, then they just send you the new disc, and the little discs all build up along the side of that Perspex block. And I think there's room for, I don't know, about 10 or 15 years worth or something on there. So
I think there's about 10 years, and then you get your blue disc at 5 years, and you get another blue disc at 10 years, and shows tenure as such. And then what happens is that you start removing the bottom lot and start on a blue disc, and to maintain the room. It is such a great visual award. Whoever created it, however many years ago,
yes,
I think it was a very smart move.
Yeah,
very, very top quality. And saying that, mine's been in storage for years. I don't even know where it is particularly. I'll have to dig it out once I get into my storage locker at some point. Tell me, how has it changed things for you from the point of view of the fire hose of information that a lot of people talk about that you get once you're in the MVP program?
Yeah, I'm having trouble keeping up with it because I've been a little bit busy with things at work, and also had to move house as well. So, I see all these sort of notifications whizzing by, and occasionally I manage to catch up with some of those. So, I mean, there's various sort of official channels. So you get invited onto various calls, which are great, with the product teams showing new things coming down the line, or giving you a chance to give some of your thoughts on how the platform is progressing. So I've been able to take part in a couple of those, and then also there's sort of some unofficial sort of MVP groupings as well. So there's one for the business applications folk, which is on Slack. So another of the MVPs invited me onto that. So I'm trying to keep an eye on that one as well, and I've put a little bit of information in there. So it is great for all that. And then just last week I was in Sydney for the what was it? Innovate, was it called? Anyway, it was the Satya Nadella, doing a similar speech, I think, to the one he gave at Ignite, and a few other folk doing that. And then after that, there was an MVP event. So the MVPs who had travelled to that, and there was another event later that week as well. So quite a few MVPs in town. So it was a chance for us all to get together and have a chat. And Shiva was there. She's very big on pushing, sort of what we can do for the wider community, which is great. And then they had a few of the actual product managers there as well. So we were able to sit down and have a few sort of open discussions and tell them, as MVPs, what we thought was working and what we think is not working with their platform, and when we think they're charging too much money for certain things. So I was told that my concerns would be taken back to the relevant relevant people. But yes, that's probably as much as I should say on that matter, I think.
Yeah, very, very good, very good. So, if someone said to you, Paul, what is it? What's the ethos of being an MVP? What's your advice to them?
Yeah, I think it's all about the community and the sharing of the knowledge. Sharing the knowledge, sharing the experience. Sort of in the first instance, and then, as I say, I think Shiva particularly, but I guess around the world, there's also, I think, more of a focus now on how can the MVPs use their sort of technical expertise and their connections to get out into the wider community, and try to spread the love and spread the knowledge, or do something for the community that involves the platforms that you're an MVP for. So helping to build things that can help people. The good example being the Christchurch shooting, the people affected by that. So we've done a little bit of work for them. So a quick shout out. So that was Hamish Watson and Steve Knutson, who are two other MVPs in Christchurch. So I wasn't an MVP at the time that hackathon was arranged, but they organised that, along with Shiva, and got a whole bunch of people in. So we were able to spend a weekend finding out what the folk affected by that tragedy, what they could benefit from, and then having a go at putting some things together for them.
I love it. I love it. So good, so good. And I bumped into Steve 2 days ago here in Auckland. He was up for the Satya's event that happened in Auckland. So it was good to see him. Being that it's been probably 7 years. Actually, no, I've seen him at some MVP summit. So I bet you're looking forward to MVP summit then next year.
Oh yes, yep. So I've put in my my registration for that. I've already started nagging the managers at Datacom to try and make sure that that the funding for the travel is available. Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Very
good, very much looking forward to that. So I've been told, by other MVPs about that event. So yeah, very much looking forward to being a part of that.
Well, we're coming up on our time. I just want to, one final question before I get into some quick fire questions, which are kind of very random, and let's just see what your answers are for them. But what advice would you give to others that were thinking of sharing their learnings via YouTube?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Well, I think in terms of sharing your learning, you've just got to find the platform that works for you. So I tried previously to sort of do written blogs and things, but I found it just took me so long to put them together that I wasn't very consistent with it. Whereas with YouTube, if you've got an idea, something that you want to share, it might only be 5 minutes. Those who watch my videos will know that they're sometimes a bit drawn out. I think my record is about an hour and a half is the longest one I've done. But that was an absolute step-by-step from nothing up to an app with, AI and cognitive services in it. But yeah, you've got to sort of find the medium and the platform that suits you. So perhaps doing YouTube is not right for everyone, and they'd be better off doing a blog, might be more comfortable doing that. I thought YouTube was great because look, all you need is a webcam and a headset, and you've got everything you need to to jump right in. I keep meaning to try to get some better software, because I see other people doing the videos, and they've got just their head as a silhouette sort of floating somewhere on the screen, whereas I've usually just got the the box from Windows camera taking up a corner of the screen instead. So not terribly high production values, but I hope that the message is more important than the production values, and the production values are something that you can look at later if it takes your interest. So my key thing was just, I want to try and get out there, get my message to people as best I can, and not get too hung up on trying to make it all look swish with intros with music and everything else. So yeah, it can be very easy and very straightforward, and you've just got to do a few, and you get into the swing of it. So the first few I was doing, I'd start the YouTube video and I'd get sort of 30 seconds in and get myself tongue tied. Doesn't matter, start again, see how you get on, and you can always just use the standard Windows Photos tool, which lets you stitch little video clips together. So if you do really fluff it up, then chop a little bit off the end, start another one and then stitch them together afterwards.
So good. Excellent, mate. Let's get on to some quick fire questions. I think you've given a lot of advice to folks out there. So here's the first one. If you could live in a sitcom, which one would it be and why?
Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay. What sitcoms to watch? Modern Family. I like Modern Family. It's just fun, and it's generally, I think, fairly positive. No tragedy, lots of laughs, not too much drama, and any arguments and tensions get forgotten by the next episode. So, yeah.
Would you rather win the lottery or live twice as long?
Live twice as long.
Mm-hmm. What is one family tradition you would like to carry on in the future?
Good question. Because we've moved around, it's difficult to sort of get those traditions kind of in place. But yeah, I mean, my daughter is fantastic. She's 8 years old. Excuse me. And we're so proud of her because, she does everything. She does gymnastics, and she's won a load of medals for her gymnastics, and she's only been doing it a year or so. She does karate, and on her last grading she went up 2 belts instead of 1. Ballet, she's just done ballet exams. So it's great, as a family, when she's doing these things and we can go and watch and see her perform these things. It's great to be able to share that with the family back home. So, take some videos and pictures and share those on Facebook. And then, when she has one of these achievements, then it's, go out for a nice meal or something, do something special. She has so many of these achievements, though. I'm getting a bit fat going out for all these meals. I need to get a bit more active myself.
Very good. What's your dream job if money didn't matter?
Well, I enjoy what I do. I like tinkering. I like playing around with the technology. I guess if I could, rather than be at the moment, it's people coming to us saying, can you build X and can you make it look like this, which is all great. But if I had the freedom to sort of sit back and say, okay, now I'm going to come up with an app that's going to change the world, and it's going to be my thing, and I'm going to design it, and it's going to work the way I think it should. So to have that, I would still want to be doing the technology stuff, but it would be great to have, the time and the resources to just say, hey, I'm going to build stuff which I think is great, and hopefully other people will like it and buy it.
What mistake do you keep making over and over again?
Coming into work every day. No. I think the key thing is trying to learn from your mistakes, which I don't learn quickly enough. I do eventually learn, but I guess it's the old dog and new tricks sort of thing. So I actually try and keep a note of things on OneNote now, where I say to myself, okay, look, you've made this mistake again. Usually a coding thing, a bad practice that I've done to save some time, something like that. And by the time I've done it 2 or 3 times and it's bitten me, I have to write down and say, okay, look, in future you will do X, and then I lose that OneNote page or forget to look at it, and I do it all over again the next day. Paul,
it's been great to have you on the show. If people want to kind of see where you're creating content, do you have a website or a Twitter or something like that?
Yeah, I'm not great on social media, so I do have a Twitter, but I can't tell you what it is off the top of my head. I think it's Paul D. O'Flaherty on Twitter. And the YouTube, so that's the best place really. So the YouTube videos, just do a search on Paul and Paraps, and you'll get me and you'll get Paul Colmsey, who's another MVP. But my videos are more fun, so watch mine rather than his.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave feedback on iTunes. If you could pop over there, go to nz365guy.com/iTunes. It'll take you straight across there to leave a review if you like these shows and you want me to continue to do them. If you want to give me feedback, hit me up. LinkedIn Messenger is the best way to get hold of me. Send me a private message on LinkedIn. I answer every one of them. Full show notes for this episode can be found at nz365guy.com/157. See you next Thursday.